uh, barn active and not be sold or torn down or whatever. Chuck and Susan have worked extra, probably the most active members of the group over the years. Susan did some Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners for like 90 people, and a lot of those folks didn't have any other place to go for Thanksgiving or celebration for holidays. So, and we made money on those. We've done the bank parking lots. We've done all kinds of things to help that out. And the reason I bring this up under ceremonials is Mr. and Mrs. Chuck Hicklin also gave $1,000. And so anybody who's wanting to look at your will and give some money to the barn, that's a good way to do it and get a tax donation. So Chuck and Susan are leaving for Waukesha County, I think it is, in the Milwaukee area, and they're going up there to be closer to family. I think they leave in a couple of days. So if they're listening on the YouTube, we all want to thank them for that, and we'll get this in the bank this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Are there any announcements? Yes, sir.
Can I make an announcement?
Sure. Then you can stay there if you want to make a public comment.
Okay, first of all, for announcements, I'm very concerned about people not having enough to eat on Memorial Day weekend. So on Saturday morning at the Elks Lodge from 7 to 10:30, there's a pancake breakfast. $8 for adults, $4 for kids under 10. And then Monday afternoon on Memorial Day, you come back to the clubhouse for the Rotary picnic. It's $10, and you can get tickets for that at Miss Kitty's, at Cornerstone Bank, or at the event itself, and I'll be serving from noon to 2.
Thank you. We will now hear general public comments with a 3-minute time limit. And please be sure to state your name and address for the minutes.
Al Seller, 22 Buckskin Lane. We sent an email this morning to Danny and Phyllis, and we realized that we had forgot to put that we wanted to read into the minutes, so I'd like to read it into the minutes now. It contains a couple pictures of dead crepe myrtles on the 9-hole course. It says, these crepe myrtles on the 9-hole number 1 are totally dead and have been so for 2 years now. Can't these be cut down anytime soon? Thank you for taking care of this. They're very unattractive and make the course look like it's not being taken care of. Somewhere down the line, maybe it wasn't even from the board. Somebody said, anyways, couldn't one of the residents cut them down? First of all, I think that'd be a big liability, somebody going in with a chainsaw on ISID property, they might get hurt. What's the result of that? And if a resident cut them down, what would they do with the wood? It's not really firewood or good for anything else. And lastly is, the board just mentioned they're not responsible for their day-to-day operations. I kind of don't question whether the residents are really concerned, really should be that involved in day-to-day operations, or some chainsaws and such are being used. So thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Selleck. Ken Mills, did you wish to make a comment at this time?
This is relative to financial statements. Do you want it now? Or?
No, we'll wait on that then. Mr. Crow, you're just planning on the, during the motion for the fire trucks. Thank you. Having gone through the list of those who wish to make announcements, we will now move on to reports. And we're pleased to have with us on the Holiday Island Marina operator, Colin Polk, to update us on the activities around the marina. Do you have anything first, Mr. District Attorney? Okay. Welcome.
Hello, Colin Polk, marine operator. Right, just say the fish tournament in there as well, but that's the Chamber of Commerce hosts that. We're just the main sponsor for it, so I'm not going to go too deep into details about the bass tournament, but it did change a little of the day-to-day operations of how the actual bass tournament works. I think it worked out pretty successfully this year. Great turnout. We had a 4.85 fish win the big bass. So I think, especially for the chamber, I think they consider it a very successful tournament. The fish fry. We hosted a fish fry for the bass tournament. We had it at the barn. We had roughly 200 people show up. We had some live music by Shiloh Molina and Doc Hopper. I think that was a great turnout, especially compared to last year. The weather held up pretty nicely as well, so we didn't get rained out. We do have some things coming up. We have kids fishing weekend this week, July 10th, or I'm sorry, June 10th. That'll be on the point. We have several sponsors for that event. I hope you guys picked up our flyers over here off the table. But we're going to have a bunch of kids show up. We have professional anglers and guides to teach them how to fish. We have a bunch of sponsors giving us free rods and reels, so all the kids who show up get a free rod and reel, a bag of lures and line. So it'll be really quite a fun time. Everybody who shows up can fish for free. Arkansas does it every year, the second week of June. So all weekend, whether you're in state or out of state, you show up in Arkansas, you don't have to pay. And that's mostly so that kids who fish free anyway, it's for their parents, so they don't have to pay to go fishing with their kids. So we're excited to put this on. This will be our first year for doing this. July 2nd, we're hosting the fireworks for Holiday Island this year. We also have a flyer for that. Please pick one of those up as well. We're changing the format a little bit. Last year it was all at the rec center. This year, obviously the rec center is non-existent. So we're hosting a lot of it at the barn. We'll have live music at the barn. We're talking with the fire department on things that they can do out of the firehouse down there, possibly food, things like that. We'll definitely have food either way. We'll also have some events down at the marina, live music down there. So there'll be multiple places to go, experience live music, have a good time, and of course fireworks at the end of the day. We were supposed to have a golf tournament this past Saturday. Sorry for anybody who was looking forward to that. We did cancel that one due to a lack of registrants, which I'm going to say that probably falls on me for not advertising it quite as well as it could have been. But I'm working with Lauren on setting a date to bring that back, probably to fundraise for the 2024 fireworks, which we're planning on doing regardless of how this year's turns out. So I just want to give everybody an update on that. So if anybody has any questions. Hopefully we see everyone at the pre-fishing weekend as well as at the July 2nd fireworks.
Colin, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing to promote things here on Holiday Island. And I think the kids fishing is just a super idea. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment too. The fish was delicious.
Oh, good.
That was a great, great thing. Entertainment was good as well.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Colin, just while you're up there, what are any plans at the marina for what you're doing there? And you had a lot of big plans coming forward for the next 7 years, actually. But anything on the agenda?
Yeah, so this year we replaced a lot of deck boards that really needed it. We got a new anchor. If anybody's noticed a big yellow post in the parking lot, that's for anchor. With the new walkway came a new anchor, and the AmeriCorps, whenever they installed it, didn't dig it deep enough, which hit rock once you get about 8 inches down. So you can't really fault them for that one. But we got a nice large anchor in there with the help of the road department. So it's going to do great. We've got a whole bunch of bumpers. We're finishing up putting around the gas dock as well. So we replaced all the bumpers, all the old carpet that used to be there. We ripped it all off. those are gonna be nice professional plastic bumpers as well instead. Next year, we're planning on enclosing a slip. One of our nightly rentals that were provided, we're gonna enclose that slip, which will allow us to expand our kitchen. So that's the next couple of years, trying to get the kitchen from just pizzas and wings to sandwiches and all of that fun stuff too. So that's a priority. And of course, we're constantly pressure washing decks and cleaning the place.
Colin, have we made any progress on, there were some electrical issues with lights?
Yeah, we've had our electrician out there the past couple of weeks. Right now he's actually focused on we found some broken PVC and had some wires showing. Still insulated wire, wasn't bare copper. So he's actually focused on that. We have to have Schedule 80 now instead of Schedule 40, which is the PVC pipe strength rating. So they're requiring us to kind of beefing it up a little bit. So once he has that in stock, we'll be putting those together. The lighting issue actually stems from the LEDs. So I guess whenever you have an old system like we do, you put LED lights on there, it's the fluctuation in power, I guess, can mess up the bulbs. And so all of our bulbs work, they're just super, super dim. So we're actually going to replace all of the LEDs with the old incandescents. So, and that should fix the problem.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys have a great weekend coming up. Enjoy your Memorial Day.
Thank you. District Manager Presley, would you like to address the marketing of the HICID lots that we talked about?
Sure. I was going to thank Colin again, but I see he just stepped out. He did a great job with the Big Bass tournament. It was really a successful tournament. I think there were over 200 entrants, so it was a good day. With regard to the marketing of the HICID lots, some of you may know that there was a Arkansas Supreme Court case that many years ago, I think it was back in the 90s, and it was called Carriage Creek. And that case basically said that the county cannot tax HICID for lots that we own. And so when we raised that issue with the county, they acknowledged that case precedent. So now when HICID takes on a lot after a foreclosure process, that lot stays in our inventory. Previously, because of the non-payment of county taxes, it ended up going through the county's foreclosure and ended up at the Commissioner of State Lands down in Little Rock. And so we've broken that cycle. The result of that is now we're going to have a lot more lots in our inventory. And we'll be keeping those. So we have been discussing ways to market those lots. So we met with the local real estate agent. It's been, 6 weeks or so. And I was not aware of this. There are over 800 HICID lots currently on the MLS, multiple listing service. So right now the market is really saturated with Holiday Island lots. And of course that drives the price down. A lot of those lots are not buildable. And a lot of the lots that we have in our inventory are not buildable. So the end result of us meeting with this real estate agent is it's just going to be very difficult for us to market these lots and, you know, get them into the hands of a responsible owner who would pay the AOBs. So that's, I mean, I don't know if you have any specific questions, but someone had asked that. The other thing I wanted to mention is someone inquired about the recreation center and the pools. The health inspector will be here tomorrow to check the large pool, and the large pool will be open again this year. The small pool will not be open. So that's the plan, and it'll be the same as it was last year. And the pool opens this coming Saturday. So, any other questions for me?
Back to the lots. I understand why there's a horrific number that probably will never sell. I mean, who would buy them? Would it be beneficial to somehow do a screening of the inventory and thin that number down? I mean, some of them that are a canyon, of course, there's a beautiful home being built on a canyon, up here on the state line, I guess.
Yeah.
So to say that it's not possible, I guess it's just how much you want to spend. But
Yeah.
do you think it would be possible to thin that number down, though, to lots that are, you know, to at least to an amateur's eyes, buildable, and market those, you know, have the real estate agents? Because I mean, I've moved a lot, and when you get caught up in Realtor.com, you know, when you're trying to search for property online, if there's hundreds of them, I mean, it's overwhelming, and pretty soon you just kind of give up. I don't know, I haven't done a very good job of explaining what I'm saying, what I'm thinking, but if we could focus on some premium locations, places that are obviously buildable and might be of more value, do we get taxed on all these lots by the county?
We used to, but we've never paid those taxes. And that's the reason that the foreclosure process was happening, and they would end up at the Commissioner of State Lands. But now, at this point, the county they have acknowledged this Carriage Creek case, and will no longer send us a bill for those taxes.
Okay, all right. Because you know, if we were having to spend any of our monies on those lots that will never sell, I was thinking it might be better to put them in a nature conservatorship or something like that. But, okay. I'm glad you're doing this, Danny. I think this is something that should have been done many years ago, and I commend you for taking the initiative to pursue this.
Well, that case was a major step forward when we brought that to the county's attention. And, you know, we didn't want to be adversarial about it, and the county was actually very good to deal with, and they acknowledged that they should not be billing us for those lots. So it worked out.
Good.
Danny, were there any lots that were foreclosed on by Carroll County that they shouldn't have been, and now they're in with the COSL, Commissioner of State Lands, and can we get them off of that?
The answer is yes. Those that have already gone through the foreclosure process are, I guess, in the care of the Commissioner of State Lands, and we can get those back eventually, but I would rather them sell on the Commissioner of State Lands website when they do their online auction, and get those into the hands of a buyer who will pay the AOBs. Because, I mean, if they come to us, they just sit in our inventory, and you know, there's no AOB revenue. But,
Okay. Thank you. The other question I had is I asked you, and we weren't sure, there was a sale in the ballroom a couple of weeks ago, an auction sale of lots, and there were two tracks that I drove by on the road. One was on State Line, one was on Serenity, that didn't look buildable to me. It was a 45-degree angle or whatever. Does anybody know on the board or the audience if any of those tracks were sold or how that sale went? I have no idea what happened there.
the only thing I know about the result of the sale is that there were only two people that showed up that day. This is the information I was given. But one of those people worked for a land holding company of some sort, and they purchased, I believe it was either 27 or 28 lots. And so that's all the information I have.
Thank you. I like what Commissioner Dyer said that if we could get out of 800, if we could even get 75 that were marginally buildable or buildable, and let the others go conservancy or whatever, but that would get some handle on it as far as, you know, if they're never going to sell, we just keep on and on and on. But there must be some that would be attractive to a crafty builder.
I agree that if there are some that are potentially sellable, buildable lots, it'd be good to know which ones those are. But I think the board would have to come to grips with if you have a lot that's going to sell for $5,000 and a realtor typically, or at least they used to, haven't bought anything in a long time, 6% of $5,000 is only $300. No realtor's going to go to any trouble for $300. So we're going to have to be realistic that we're going to have to offer at least $1,000 commission for anybody that even go to trouble to do the paperwork.
Right.
But if we do have buildable lots, yeah, I think we ought to kind of have a separate little spreadsheet of what those are that marketed, because agreed, a lot of them would be tough.
You make a really good point, and you said $1,000, that is exactly the number that this real estate agent told me. She said no agent's going to go through the time to market and do the paperwork for less than $1,000.
There, a lot of places that I have been, we've had there's always unbuildable lots. And as a matter of fact, I had a HUD person visit here one time, and they asked me about unbuildable lots to see one. And I took them to the little A-frame that sits up on top of the hill up there that's out on stilts. And I said, there's your unbuildable lot. And she said, no, it's obviously buildable because it's got a house on it. That's where Bill and Rosie Percival lived. But anyway, a lot of places that I've been, particularly if they were like a property owners association, there's lots that you can sell for memberships. Now, you have to have a creative method of doing, saying what you can do with the membership lot and how much it pays and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure legally that a suburban improvement district, because of the allocation of assessed valuation, for a better term than AOV, everyone has to be equal. At one time, if you had a house on the property, you paid the same thing as a vacant lot. That has been changed by law. I don't know what all that law did change. But if you get creative and do some membership lots, then that might be a good way to get rid of some of them. But you got to get creative.
Else? Ms. Buchanan?
Well, I have a question. You mentioned the Commissioner State lands. You would refer to them settlement properties. Are you referring to the inventory that they currently have?
Yes.
Because anything as of this year, the foreclosures we do this year will not go to the Commissioner State lands. The county will just hold on.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
History, back in like 2002, 2003, when I was on the board, we identified 200 lots, and we got them taken off of the county inventory, and they were kind of designated as green space. That's what you're kind of talking about here. And they were supposedly unbuildable. But back when NRPI came in, Tom Dees talked to him to take them back in, and he sold all 200 of those lots to NRPI, and they're up, you got them back now again. Off the road.
Anything else? Carrie, did you have anything more?
Well, I'm the one that did that project, and what the county did was just absorb it into the green space. And then he's right, whenever NRPI came in, they pulled them back out.
The county didn't like it.
No, the county was not appreciative of that, because it was a lot of work to get that pulled off.
Ms. Graves?
I didn't put my name down, but can I make a comment?
Well, we're really past comment time, I'm sorry. Everybody else has, go ahead. It's not a big meeting today, so.
Well, thanks. This has been a concern of mine the whole time I served.
Name, please.
Linda Graves, 29 Table Rock. And this has been a concern of mine the whole time I served on the commission. And my feeling is, it's pretty simple. Put a spreadsheet out on your website listing all these lots. You're gonna have to have a pricing plan though, on how you price it. So come up with some plan on how you're gonna price the lots, whether you have a standard one price for every lot, or you distinguish them by whether you think they're buildable or not buildable. It would seem like you might want to go look at them, you know, and I'd say list them by street, so people at least have a chance of knowing what street the lot's on. But if you don't even try, you're not going to get any money, you know? And it takes so little to try. I just don't understand it. And the other thing is, you don't need a realtor to sell a lot. You can sell it by owner. You know, you can quit claim the deed to them. There are simple ways to go about this that don't cost you any money, and you might get some money. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Should we move on to old business? There is none. New business, we have a couple of items for new business. And the first is consideration to purchase two fire department apparatus. The question is to purchase two fire department apparatus pending completion of the work that's being done now on a pressure test and a windshield. So we're going to phrase this that it's pending the work being completed. Do I have a motion? I need a motion to put the question on the table.
I'll make a motion to put the question on the table.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Childers and seconded by Commissioner Brown to consider the question. District Manager, will you please update the board and introduce the Fire Chief Aides?
Yes. We've been looking for trucks. I say we, Chief, and one of his firefighters, the lieutenant who's here. I know we've all been looking. Found one truck that we thought we could purchase down in Texas. It was a ladder truck to replace our ladder truck, which needs some major repairs. And turns out that truck did not pass the pump test, so that's no longer an option for us. The other two trucks are down in Pine Bluff. And, you know, the bottom line is we need to upgrade our equipment. We have some antiquated fire equipment that needs to be upgraded to ensure our ISO rating. And so, Chief, if you'll go ahead and explain what your game plan is.
First of all, thank you for having me here this morning, and good morning to you all. I want to give you an update on how we're doing on our fire trucks, where we are and where we need to be. Sure, is the clicker in? You notice how we have these technical names for gadgets? This is the clicker.
We all understood. Okay, there you go.
First of all, off the subject slightly, this is Emergency Medical Services Week. The slogan for this year is where emergency care begins. I can't think of a better slogan for Holiday Island Fire Department. Since we first respond and wait on the ambulance to arrive from Eureka Springs, we depend on our volunteers and paid staff to provide the best emergency medical care for the first 15 or 20 minutes of that emergency. We are constantly striving to improve and provide better service, and I'm excited to say our number of volunteers are increasing. In the last 3 weeks, we have fielded roughly 6 or 7 applicants. Half want to do the new EMT class that'll be coming up in January, half want to be firefighters, and some of those want to do both. So we are excited that we are increasing our numbers, which means we can increase the number of folks in the field, and we can provide even better care. So if you're around on Saturday, we're going to have a cookout for all of our EMTs and emergency medical responders and first aid folks up at the pavilion on the island at about noon. Come by, give them a hug, tell them they're appreciated. I appreciate the outpouring of support that I've received from this board, from Mr. Presley, from our community, from our rural board, and from our auxiliary, and from many organizations here in Holiday Island. It has been heartwarming, and any new chief is always excited when plans start moving ahead for improvement. So out of our 5 fire stations, we are looking to have 5 engines at each station. We would like to have a reserve engine and, of course, a ladder truck. And this is to comply with ISO, of course. They state that for a first out call, such as a fire alarm, a structure fire, shed fire, the first out should be 2 fire engines and a ladder truck. Of course, we ran into a problem immediately when we got here. I noticed that our first fire engine, old number 1, this is the old Holiday Island engine. Matter of fact, somebody found a video of it the other day, pulling out a station going on fire from back in 1980. This truck, of course, has been out of service for a while. We did not receive any credit for it, and as a result, the fire station didn't receive any credit for its surrounding 5 road miles. Good news is, on the 30th of this month, the replacement will be arriving. This engine will be coming from the Bradford Fire Company over in Illinois, just on the other side of Cape Girardeau. This engine is kind of a do-it-all vehicle. It's a little big for us, but in the past, our staff and volunteers have had to jump around from a pickup truck or an old ambulance to first respond, to a rescue truck for a car wreck, to a fire truck for a fire, to a brush truck for a backyard fire. With this vehicle, it's one vehicle does everything. It's set up to rescue, EMS, firefighting, and it even has a hose line on it that we can reach into the backyards for the brush fires. So one vehicle will help us out tremendously. We're going to have of course, a public showing for this vehicle when it arrives, and we're looking forward to having this with us. Here's where we are on the current trucks we need to replace. This is old engine 2. This is a 1979 Ford. This one was the original Beavertown fire truck back when Beaver Fire Department was in operation. It, of course, does not meet standards due to its age. It's failed multiple pump tests, and every time we use it, we have to fix it because something breaks. The other engine that we're looking to replace is engine 4. This is a 1988 Ford. The builder that made it's been closed for over 25 years. Parts are hard to come by. It needs some minor repairs already to the pump. Good news is this truck drives wonderful. It's a Ford. And of course, I don't want to get into the Ford Chevy discussion. Somebody back there will start throwing things at me. But it's other than the pump system, it's a good truck. We started searching earlier this year for replacement vehicles, and at the outset, this looked like it was going to be an easy task. Unfortunately, we found that it's not. Due to delays in production, it now takes up to 4 years to get your brand new fire truck once it's ordered. As a result, many departments are holding on to their older vehicles and not selling them, or the ones that are for sale are being snatched up as quickly as possible and at a premium price. So we started our search with local fire dealers in the surrounding 4 or 5 state area. We talked with one company, Firemaster, and they said, yes, we'd love to talk to you. We have a fire truck for sale. It was back from the 1990s, and one of our firefighters noted, that is the ugliest shade of yellow I've ever seen on a fire truck. Missouri Fire Apparatus, over toward central Missouri, informed us bluntly, we don't have any fire trucks. John Smith America in Rogersville, Missouri said, yes, we have fire trucks, come visit us. What they neglected to tell us was the starting price is $350,000 per truck. Well, that's kind of outside what we were looking for. The one truck that was under $350,000 was so big it would not fit in any of our fire stations. But there is a large company that has a fire truck show called Brindley Mountain. It's located in Alabama. So I took a little road trip over to there and look. When I talked to them, they said, well, we've got one engine that fits your criteria budget-wise and year-wise and capacity-wise. So we'll be glad to show that to you. So I made sure it was there before I left. By the time I got there, it already sold. They did have two more they tried to sell me for only $300,000 each. We tried brokers. The bad thing about brokers is these trucks are not on anybody's lot, they're just at somebody's fire station, and usually they're selling them because they're in bad repair. And it seemed a waste of money to buy plane tickets to fly over the U.S. looking at bad trucks. So I was getting kind of frustrated, and lo and behold, I got a phone call from the fire chief at Eureka Springs, Chief Gary Inman. He says, I understand you're having trouble finding trucks. I said, that's right, we've got old stuff we need to replace. He said, we bought an engine from an unusual source, a place called Foster Motor Companies in Pine Bluff. They're a heavy equipment dealer. And here we go again. They're a heavy equipment dealer. And they happen to have some trucks. Now, being a heavy equipment dealer, like medical emergency on Holly Line Drive. We are a busy department. We're closing in on 350 calls for the year so far. Anyway, so he told me, he said, this place, Foster Motors, is not your typical dealer. They buy 18-wheelers, school buses. That's what they turn over, but they happen to land 4 fire trucks. And so I called with Foster Motors, and they said, come on down. We've got 4. Well, by the time I got there, they had 2. I'd like to introduce to you what I call the twins.
They look like twins.
This is not the same fire truck. These are 2 different fire trucks. They're identical to each other. These come from down in Charleston, South Carolina. They're 2006 Spartans. They were city maintained by the city of Charleston in their shops. They have short wheelbases, which makes them ideal for the tight turns here in Holiday Island. One of the issues we have with our current trucks is they're all 2-seaters. That means when our volunteers show up to go on a fire, if there's already 2 there, then the fire truck rolls out the door and the poor other 2 or 3 firefighters show up, have to grab their gear, lug it out to their cars, and then go to the fire, and it creates a delay. These trucks, along with the one that we're picking up next week, have multiple seats, which will allow us to put more firefighters on the fire faster. Something else I like is these trucks were both equipped with in-cab medical compartments. We run a lot of car wrecks and medical calls. Having a medical compartment keeps the trucks out of keeps the medical stuff out of the weather on these trucks. Another plus, the manufacturer, Spartan, is still in business and still going strong. So we will be able to get parts for quite a while for these 2 engines. Another item I noticed is deep hose beds. Our fire hydrants are very widely spaced, and we're currently switching types of hoses so we can lay out longer lines from hydrants. Therefore, we can get 2 or 3 blocks instead of just 1 or 1.5 block. With these trucks, we'll be able to get that amount of hose on. This is kind of a personal thing. They have roll-up doors. A lot of our trucks have the side opening doors. When you get out on a car wreck or fire on our streets, and our firefighters are wearing heavy gear, and the air pack throws them off balance, and they try to step back around the door. It's not unusual to step in a ditch, trip, fall. So this eliminates that fall hazard. It makes the equipment easier to get in and out. The great is that these trucks do meet the current ISO standards with their pump and their tank size and the configuration. If you'll notice up on top, both of the trucks come with their ladders. Of course, we'll have to test them to be sure, but for each ladder that passes, we'll save $14,000 in having to replace ladders. Also, having these 2 trucks with us and the one that's incoming puts all of our first out apparatus being from this century rather than from the last. So that removes all of our old fire engines from frontline service. My thoughts are to take that Ford, our old engine Ford, that needs pump repairs but runs good, the one that's the Ford, keep it as a reserve truck for when one needs to go to the shop. If you might not remember, back when I passed out the ISO rating sheet, there's a line that says reserve fire engine, 0 points. By keeping one of the old trucks and keeping it in service, we can get additional points from ISO for that. All right, here's the biggie. How much does it cost? Everybody wants the money, right? They were listed at roughly $50,000 a piece. When I went and looked at them, I asked the gentleman who owns the company, I said, why have these 2 not sold? He said, well, the other ones were snatched up first because of lower mileage. These are the two higher mileage vehicles. One is 186,000 miles, the other is 143,000. But as he pointed out, and I agree, for a diesel engine, Allison automatic transmission, if the rest of the truck is in good shape, the pump is in good shape, the tank is in good shape, then the mileage is not going to hurt for this area where we're not going to be putting much more on, because all of our runs are fairly short. We got to talking, and the gentleman that owns the company, he's a city council member, so he understands what fire departments are up against. His brother is the mayor for Whitehall and happened to be in the office when we were visiting. So we got to talking, and lo and behold, they made us a bargain. If you take both these twins off our hands, you can have them for $35,000 apiece. The guarantees that come with it is current pump test. It will meet a current DOT inspection. Since they do heavy equipment, they're used to inspecting 18-wheelers and large vehicles to make sure they meet the standards of the roads, so these trucks will meet that standard. We also crawled all over these trucks and listed deficiencies such as a windshield that need to be replaced, some odds and ends, some lights that need to be replaced, and other items, and they agreed they would correct those deficiencies. A quick update on the ladder truck. You heard Mr. Presley say we ran into some issues with the ladder. This is a 1991 build. The builder closed in 1996, right after the truck was built. We are unable to find parts for it, including wheel rims, tires, brake drums. They simply don't make that type and size anymore. The ladder has not been tested or certified in a long time, and when ISO was through, they only gave us a quarter of a point for the truck. It's a beautiful truck. Unfortunately, mechanically, it's not quite sound. We sent it down to EVS, Emergency Vehicle Services, in Conway to have this truck worked on, try to get back up to par. We've asked them to check and certify the pump for us. We had a compartment door that was about to fall off. The electrical wiring was shot, the nozzle on the ladder would no longer function. And we had some onboard generator wiring, and we wanted that ladder certified. We got a phone call from them several weeks later, says, we hit a snag in the ladder. Did you know your ladder is cracked at the base? So after much wrangling back and forth and research, they stated, yes, it is possible to fix the ladder, but at a beginning cost of $75,000, plus the expenses for the additional repairs which would pile up. Personally, I'm not inclined to throw good money after bad on an old truck that's obsolete, no matter how beautiful it may be to the eye. Mechanically, it's just not there. We are fortunate that the ladder did not yield during training or further crack or cause problems. Now, to buy a new one, replacement's $2 million. We can't afford that. A used replacement will run about $500,000. That's kind of pricey. We have some limitations that we are up against also. Our fire stations were not built for modern equipment, so we're going to have to find a ladder truck that's shorter than 40 feet to be able to fit the stations. Otherwise, we have to build a new bay. We also want a truck that is still able to have parts replaced by a current manufacturer and has a certified ladder and a certified pump. That narrows down our search considerably. An idea to throw out also, one of the things that our rural board did was they are participating in a program through the Arkansas Forestry Service in conjunction with the Federal Excess Property Program, where we can obtain a 2,000-gallon water tanker at a very reduced cost. What they do is they take old military chassis that are being cycled out from our military. They examine them, go through, do all the repairs, put a new tank on it, paint it, and hand it off to the fire departments to use for water tenders. The cost is about $35,000. There's no labor fees because it's done by the Arkansas prison system, which saves money on these trucks. It'll take about a year and a half for us to get the truck. It's not much. This is what it looks like, but it can move additional water in case we get a bad hydrant or an area that doesn't have hydrants. Between us applying for this grant and our rural fire applying for the grant, it's a possibility that in another year and a half, we can have 2 of these to help with moving water here in Holiday Island. Again, that will help us with our ISO. If you recall, the examiner's statement was that our ability to move water was fair. So, what am I asking for the Board of Commissioners? One, I'd like for you to approve the purchase of the 2 used Spartan fire engines from Foster Motor. Total amount of that is going to be $70,000. I'd like your okay to continue with searching for a replacement ladder truck rather than trying to replace the one we have. We'll see what we can come up with, come back to the board. And last, I'd like your permission to participate in this grant program at a cost of about $35,000. This, of course, won't be payable until next year when the truck actually comes around. And that's what I wanted to present to you all this morning. May I answer any questions?
I have a question, Danny, and also Chief. Is there a way with our financial picture that we could either, A, send you with a cashier's check to hold it or pay for it? You mentioned that 2 of them were gone before you went to this one company. I think with all the fire departments looking so actively for these trucks, we need to jump on it like right now. Is there a way to do that fiscally, to send either wire money or do something that it would be paid for before somebody else jumps on it?
Well, we do have assurances from this company that they would not sell the truck out from under us. You know, and that was, what, I guess a couple of weeks ago, and they knew that this meeting was going to be occurring today.
Okay, good.
So it's ours if the board approves it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you.
What about an option if, to get one when it's ready? Is one ready and deliverable now, or are both of them on the, both of them have various things that need fixed?
Right, they should
Okay.
come up at the same time.
Okay, that's
You
fine.
gave me a timeline, less than a month.
Oh, okay, thank you. That was May the 3rd, May the 5th.
I have a comment, I guess, or a couple, to Mr. Brown's comment. He's exactly right. I think, should a ladder truck come up, the chief finds out about a ladder truck that meets our requirements, which are fairly specific, he needs to be ready to jump on it, because they will go. And, we don't need to wait 2 weeks to have a meeting to approve it,
No.
I think we should be prepared to either give him an upper limit of what we're willing to spend, approve that, and so that Danny can wire the money if he finds the appropriate truck, or if we feel more comfortable with having a special meeting to talk about that specific truck, we need to do that, because it's in this environment, waiting 2 weeks or a month, you're probably going to lose out.
I don't have a problem.
The question I had for the chief, the Spartan twins, they're beautiful girls. How long do you think they'll last, chief? What would you anticipate the lifespan would be of those trucks?
Crawling all over them and looking at them, and I had somebody else go back and repeat it after me to make sure I wasn't biased just because they were available. From what we look at, and I think these trucks will last us 15 to 20 more years. They are in good shape. There's almost no rust on them. Of course, they're down south. Even the seats weren't torn. That's usually the indicator how hard has this truck been used, is when the seats are torn or worn out.
Yeah.
They look good, and I bet they can last at least 15 years.
Even with the miles you described?
Yes.
Okay. The price is unbelievable
Yes.
for that,
Yes.
that type of piece of equipment, so.
I had a question for the chief before the meeting started, and I was going to ask to amend the agenda, but I think it has to do with these purchases, and that was the question I asked about hose. There was on next door a while back pallets of hose that we had purchased, and I was wondering why we needed hose if there were available for the other replacement trucks. And you mind commenting on that?
When I brought you guys the proposal for the first engine, it was to replace old engine 1. That engine had already been stripped for equipment and hose. One of the obstacles we encountered is that a lot of our trucks are under-equipped. So we have had to purchase quite a bit of equipment for the incoming vehicle. As we're going to be cycling out 2 others, we can use some of the hose and equipment off of those vehicles to put on the 2 incoming twins. Now, that won't mean we probably won't need parts pieces here and there to bring it up to par, or maybe a little bit more hose, but it shouldn't be an all-out like we're having to do with the current engine that's coming in. Good question.
So there were no hose, pieces of hose or amount of hose that was either stolen or missing or anything previously?
No, we had an issue where we couldn't find some of the new hoses and nozzles that were purchased prior to my arrival. As we started station cleaning, which was very badly needed, we started finding some of our missing equipment, still in boxes, never opened or put on the vehicles. We found one of our brand new nozzles, an expensive one, underneath some trash, underneath a shelf. It never been put on the truck. We started searching for the missing hose and found that the hose had been just strewn to different trucks with no rhyme or reason. We have 2 sections, old hose with the new hose in the middle. And it was never all put on the primary vehicles. So that created a lot of confusion. But as we've cleaned, we have been finding almost everything that we have been missing.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your comments. I just have one comment, and then
Sure.
I guess another follow-up question. First of all, I want to see if you're available to go with me the next time I have to purchase a vehicle, because this does seem like an astonishingly good price. But we knew that there was a lot of equipment that needed to be purchased, and I'm sure we've all signed checks for all of that purchase. Do you feel like we're at the end of having all the equipment that needed to be found, purchased, put in place?
Not quite, but we're close. A lot of the expensive things are done. From here, it's going to be parts and pieces, maybe a few more pieces of hose, a nozzle or 2, but that's about it. We have sitting in the fire station, the boxes, it's everything ready to go. So as soon as that truck gets here, we can take the things we've already purchased, put them on that vehicle, and it should be ready to go.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for your work.
Louis, could I ask just a really quick question?
Sure.
The vehicles that are going to be retired then, do they have any residual value?
Very little. We're going to try to auction the 2 oldest vehicles, the 1970s. The old white one that was our original truck, it's probably have a little collector's value to someone, but I would be surprised if we get 5,000 or 6,000. The older engine from Beaver, some little department may want to pick it up as a reserve truck, but since it can't meet standards, again, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 is about all we can look for.
That's still
Better
something.
nothing.
That's good.
Anything else, commissioners?
Speaking of, I'm gonna talk a little louder because this pops every time I turn it on. Danny, some of the money to pay for these vehicles and the equipment, could that be taken out of the dedicated funds for the sale of the lot of the cell tower and or the Purple Wave? In other words, we're looking at 70,000 here on the screen for two vehicles, but we had like 800,000 there. I'm not seeing where we're short of money for any of these purchases. Are we?
You're correct, we are not short of money. We do have an equipment replacement fund, equipment reserve fund that will take care of this purchase.
Okay.
As well as a ladder truck, if we can find something in the price range that we had found down in Texas, which I think was it 70,000, Chief?
Good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I would just remind everybody that the cell tower money is dedicated to the water projects. But we don't want to dip into that. Anything else? Thank you very much, Chief. We appreciate your information, and we will move on along here.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any more discussion for now, everybody?
Well, in terms of Mr. Dyer's question, are we going to make a motion to what he suggested as far as giving an approval, or we're going to have a special meeting for the future, or what?
Our motion on the table is to approve the 2 fire trucks, the twins, I like that. And these other items, we don't need a motion to continue the search. And do we need a motion for the grant? Well, then that is something, do we want to add that to the next? I don't know what the proper
I think we
handling of
can
it.
just combine them
Can we include
together.
all of that here today?
I
Okay.
would make a motion that we approve the fire chief's request, approving the purchase of 2 used Spartan fire engines from Foster Motors Company for a total of $70,000. Approve his continued search for a replacement ladder truck, and approve a grant application for a Arkansas forestry tanker truck for an estimated $35,000.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the items on the chief's request list, his wish list here. And we will, before we move on any further, does anyone wish to speak in favor or in opposition to the question? And Mr. Crow, I have you down as having a comment to make.
I'm good.
All right, thank you. Are you ready for the question?
I have one more question. It's June 1st next week. In your opinion, and for Mr. Presley, are we moving along in a good manner toward the ISO corrections that they are requiring by December 31st, so we can keep that ISO where it was?
On some items, yes, especially with equipment, personnel, other items, no.
Good. Thank you.
We'll keep after it.
Thank you.
The question is to purchase 2 fire department apparatus, as described by Chief Yates, to approve the continued search for the replacement ladder truck, and to approve the grant application for an Arkansas forestry tanker truck at an estimated $35,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Thank you, Commissioners.
And I would say thank you to you and the district manager
Yeah.
for coming in and putting together a plan so rapidly to help
Yeah.
us resolve these issues.
Yes. Agreed.
Chief, I know how much work you've put into this.
And your troops.
Yes,
I have some good people.
good job.
Yep, thank you. Moving on to item number 2, consideration action to receive and accept the April 2023 end-of-month financial reports. The question is to receive and accept the financial reports for April 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to consider the question. District Manager Presley, will you please
Financial.
review the financials?
Yes. She's going to pull them up here. There we go. Can you enlarge that just a little bit, Sherry? Right. The plus and the minus is right in the middle of the top middle. There you go. I can see it if you'll scroll just a little bit. There we go. Okay, well, one thing I would like to point out on this is, first of all, you can see this expenditures here in this first column is roads, and what you're seeing there is the purchase of those 2 trucks. The 2, I think one is a 1 ton and one is a 3/4 ton. And both of those trucks had to be equipped with snow plows. So that's why you're seeing this increased expense here. But if you look over here at the total, we're at 35%. And this is as of the end of April. So, 4 months into the year, and we're on pace. Any questions on any of this? Okay. Next slide, Sherry.
Yes, and excuse me, I had
Yes,
one
sir.
on, but it doesn't have to go back to that slide, but on the PRVs, has Big J come up yet, or where are we on that
Yes,
project?
yes, sir. They have started on 3 of the PRVs. I believe it was Thursday. They were starting on one, and then they had 2 others for this week. So we've got 18 to do, and we should have those 3 done probably by the end of this week.
But by starting on, you mean our folks are making them available for the company to come in and put them in, or
Yes,
they're
sir.
putting them in?
Yes, sir. Our people are working with Big J. Big J asked that we would prepare the site, dig up the roadway, make them accessible.
Okay. So there's three underway now, 3.
Correct. Yes. I don't know, this is kind of unremarkable, there's nothing really here that, I do want to point out this number here. We're at 52% of projected revenue already for the 18 hole and the pro shop, and I know Lauren is here. He and I we just talked about that last week. The 18 hole and the restaurant is doing really well this year. So we're ahead of, you can see right here, this is the restaurant and the meeting rooms at 49%, which is pretty good for 4 months into the year. Go ahead, Sherry. Thank you. So that's where we're at for the non-AOB revenue. And we're, 35.2.
35.
We're tracking pretty well so far. Go ahead, Sherry. This is the AOB revenue. You know that, can you go up just slightly so I can see the legend? This is the year-to-date collections for the AOBs. The bills, of course, went out in February. And just like last year, you'll see this number continue to climb. They won't come due until October. But you can see that obviously some people paying early. So we're doing well there. And this flat line, this is what we project as 2.46 million for the year for the AOB revenue. And I think we'll get there. Revenue versus expenditures. This, you can see that our expenditures have outpaced the revenue. That's not by much. And when you consider that all total with those new trucks and the snow plows and everything that went into it, and then we had a flat, like a utility bed, put on one of those trucks, somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000 each. So that's, it's $160,000 right there. So, and then I know, obviously, the fire department, y'all spent quite a bit on the equipment and supplies that we needed for the ISO rating. But go ahead, Sherry. Now, this number here has increased, and the board, you may recall that our threshold that we have to maintain is 35%. And we put extra money into the reserves because we realized back in about, I think it's when we did the year-end financials for 2022, we realized that we had dropped down to like 33 point something. And so we added an additional $250,000 into the reserves. And the CDs now are in the 4.5 to 4.8% range, which is far better than they were a year ago when we were earning, less than 1%. So we're seeing a lot more interest income in our investments. And as I've mentioned before, we move those every few months. One of those CDs will come due. We put it out for bids, and we shop the rates, and we're getting a really good return.
This is a new way you've done this chart, I like
showing the total of everything, everything.
You divided out the reserves, where it's easier to
Okay,
understand
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's good.
Okay, Sherry. Money market balance, you'll see here we're at just over 2 million. And, you know, that's those big expenditures that we've had the last few months, but we're still in good shape, you know, compared to past years. Go ahead, Sherry. I don't know how many slides we have left. This is just showing the monthly cash flow. Total cash in all accounts right here, 4.6 million, which is quite a bit. That's including the investments and our primary money market account, what you would call a general fund. Go ahead. That's the same chart. Yeah.
It was bigger,
And that-
easier
yeah.
to read. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all I
okay,
got.
that's all we got. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one on one of our vendors, and that's ESI, the engineering company.
Yes,
Do
sir.
they charge an hourly fee as they're writing up grant proposals and boilerplate on the water projects, or is it one fee for the whole well 4 and 5 and so forth? I'm a little murky on what we're paying them and how much they're charging for ESI engineering.
Well, Commissioner, I'm a little murky on that too, to be honest. But Carrie and I were looking at that just the other day, and we realized that ESI has not billed us since 2021. So that's just one of the things that they don't bill promptly. And I don't know if there's a backlog on that. I'm going to be talking to Jeff Denhart later on today about another issue regarding our grant application for the water wells, but and I'll ask him about that.
Because if
But it's been
bill
2
comes in
years.
at like 100,000, we can pay it, but it's got to be taken out of some other needs that we have. And I'm concerned that is it June 13th, the well 4 and 5 is going to be open to bids?
I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
I just think we need to move along as fast as we can, and it's been frustrating to the delays that we keep facing. And I know you're trying to get it going and so forth. There's been so many things that have stood in the way, but we need to get this done. And the other thing is the chair just said about the dedicated money from the sale of the auction and so forth. Where are we with the UV water system for the sewer plant? That's being...
It's, ESI is also working on that. He has the preliminary design work done, and we have, you may have seen an email I sent about a week or 10 days ago that they had canceled the committee meeting when they were going to award the grants.
Right.
So that has been postponed, but we do have that pending.
We had how long to get the UV system finished by the state?
2025. So,
It would
Couple
be,
of years.
yeah, at least a couple of years.
it would be about a year project to finish.
Oh, not to construct it, no, sir. It's just a small standalone building that the construction of it wouldn't take nearly that long.
And that's $750,000
Yes, sir.
price tag?
Yes, sir, roughly.
Yes,
I believe it was 780 was the estimate, but that's correct.
So if we have roughly, I'm just going to make some guesstimates here, $800,000 from the sale of land and the Purple Wave sale. Thank you for doing that, by the way. We don't have enough to do UV, and also 4 and 5. There's not enough in that account, is there?
Well, that's correct. But we won't know those numbers until we get the bids in. Hopefully, we'll get a good bid on well number 4, as you mentioned, on June the 13th. And I'd like to mention this. You may have seen the email. When I was at the Northwest Arkansas Community Development and Economic Development Forum that was in Fayetteville last week. It was just a one-day training. And they divided us into groups, and in my small group, there were, I think, 7 of us there, and one of the ladies was a manager at Communities Unlimited. Communities Unlimited is the group that's doing our rate study, our water rate study next month. And she explained that that is another service that they offer, is grant assistance and low-interest loans and that sort of thing. So she has put me in touch with their director, and I'll be working with Communities Unlimited as well, so we can have maybe some parallel grant writing going on with Communities Unlimited and ESI.
Okay, moving along. Does anyone wish to speak in favor or in opposition to the question? And Mr. Mills, do you have a question for us?
Yes. Ken Mills, 20 Rocky Top Circle. It's really not relevant to your April. It has to do with financial statements. Can I do that now?
Sure.
On the financial statements that you put on your website, I was wondering, I would like to see if you could consider adding a consolidated profit and loss statement to that posting.
Okay?
I hate to refer back, but I was used to having one of those, and it's very informative, I thought, for an old accountant.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioners, are you ready for the question? The question is to receive an, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, so Ms. Graves,
I'm sorry.
I didn't know if she was on your list there too.
Sure.
Thank you.
Only because we're a small group this time.
You're running on a good schedule. Linda Graves, 29 Table Rock. Just a comment, it was always my understanding when I was on the board that the ESI people, Jeff, would put money in the grant for their services if they're working on a grant. If they're doing stuff for you that's outside of a grant, I cannot understand why they aren't billing you, or you have a contract with them that specifies a certain rate for services. Do you know when when did the last contract end?
We do not have a contract with ESI.
But
I
you know,
mean, we use their services, but we're not under contract with them.
when he came and talked to us, oh gosh, when was that? 2 years ago, I suppose. I also got the impression at that time that they put their fee for services inside that contract.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you bid out for a UV system, what their design and development part of it is inside that. Now, that's just an impression. I don't know that he necessarily said that.
If you're covered by a grant, or if, or when maybe they pay, if they're writing it for you to pay for it, maybe it's in the paperwork on the specifications or something like that.
Good question to ask.
You need to know what you're gonna be charged or how much you owe. Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I had to say, thanks.
I thought they just loved us, so they were doing it for free. The question is to receive and accept the financial reports for April 2023. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the financial statements are approved, accepted. Commissioner comments. Does anyone have anything, any comment they would like to make at this time?
I do.
Mr. Dyer?
Thank you. I know we've had some communication recently about the barn. And I know Ken is very involved, and thank you to the Smiths for their generous contribution, but I think it'd be good to place a long-term plan for the barn and, you know, establish some sort of real, like I say, a long-term plan, how it's gonna be financed, maintained, run, all that kind of thing. And I know I made a telephone conversation with the district manager recently about this, and I think it would be beneficial to ask the district manager to set up a citizens committee. And I'm not talking about people on this board. I'm talking about people in the community, and do a deep look at the barn, what its importance is to this community, and how it long-term should be run. You know, we're not going to have unlimited funds to take care of it. And I know a lot of other facilities in other communities have kind of similar significance. They turn them over to like a 501(c) organization and let them do fundraising and you know, take it off the tax rolls and all that. You know, and maybe a long-term lease at no cost to a organization like that would be the appropriate way to set it up. But anyway, I don't want to suggest solutions. I just would like to see us maybe set up a committee of citizens to put together a plan and bring the plan to this board and let us make a decision about it.
Well, Madam Chair, I agree with Bob, and having been with the Friends of the Barn for 14 years, like the Smiths, it's our feeling with a number of people who have made so many hundred hours, and Suzanne was on the board over there and did a lot of work, and many others. We feel that there hasn't been a lot of interest in HICID about the barn. It was just there, and it's something some people feel it should never have been purchased from the steakhouse owners and so forth. We've had some comments that if there's a fire over there, turn off the gas, propane, there's no more propane over there, but so propane won't, in other words, let it burn down. A lot of communities have historic buildings, city halls, county courthouses. I was just in Texas over the weekend and looked at some beautiful courthouses around Navasota, Texas, and they are taken care of by a committee or a tax-free organization like we already have formed. But we're looking at, Danny has approved about $8,000 for the flat roof repair just to get us started over there. But to do the whole roof could be many more thousands of dollars. And doing work at the bank parking lot and so forth, $500 a day, or a $1,000 donation from generous people, that's not going to do a $70,000 roof. So the other aspect is we're thinking of selling it, asking the board to consider putting it on the market, letting somebody come in like the marina is. You know, we own the marina, but, or it wouldn't be like the marina, but anyway, somebody else would own it and anybody would rent it, the rental would go to that person or that company or whatever. So I think that's a great idea you have, and I think the Friends of the Barn would be willing to continue that, even though we're losing some of our good members and officers over the years. But I think we either need to keep it and keep it up, and just the Big Bass Tournament, Danny was an example of how popular that is. We've had a sock hop tournament over there, a sock hop party, about 100 people. We've had Oktoberfest that are just outstanding, and family reunions. I look at Miss Graves over here and other people. So we really don't want to lose it, but we've got to operate a little more.
You know, Ken, if it was in the hands of a tax-free group,
Yeah.
there are foundations and things, foundations in Northwest Arkansas. The Walton Foundation is a good example, that have money that do contribute to those kind of organizations where they probably wouldn't if it's in the hands of and run by ISID.
Yeah, I agree. Opera in the Ozarks just received $34 million from the Walton Foundation
Yeah.
for a whole new campus out there. And we've approached them before from the Friends of the Barn, but we were 35 miles or more away from Bentonville, their home headquarters, and we got some funds, but not a lot. But there's a possibility of that.
I remember writing the proposal for that. Yeah, and we were 5 miles outside their zone that they paid attention to. Another thing we might consider is a request for proposals, where somebody might want to use that as an event center, you know, and market it themselves, and if we provided it a very limited cost, and they assume the maintenance, that might be, you know, and I'm just brainstorming honestly, but it's worth looking at.
John Morris.
Nobody could afford to go
Everybody
there.
always says that.
Thank you. Good idea.
Any other commissioner comments? The commissioner agenda scheduling, the next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 26, 2023. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No? The nays? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you for your presence.